Chapter 73 Go and invite Buddha Levin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Despite Larry and Daisy's earnest expectations, after Levin returned to Hogwarts, he did not return to the Forbidden Forest to visit them frequently, because in less than half a month, the final exam will begin. Test is the teacher's magic weapon, and points are the lifeblood of students. As the exam day comes with the arrival of summer, the little wizards have become dull and confused, and they can't figure out whether it is the sun or the test paper, the written part of the exam. Was a headache. The teacher gave them new quills specially used for the exam, all of which had spells to prevent cheating. The experience of scrambling for every last bit of homework in the library is certainly a daunting experience, but what's even more sad than that is being in the examination room and trying so hard to get the last inch of the test paper. This time I'm not allowed to read, but when the little wizards see the practical exam, they will understand that the written exam is not a mercy. The exam in Charms was to tap dance a pineapple across a desk. This test is relatively simple, and most young wizards can do it, but Levin almost overturned the car. He thoughtfully gave the pineapple hands, feet and dancing shoes, and then controlled it to dance. The dance moves were almost all learned from some MMDs. Those moves would burn up if you were not careful, even though it was just a pineapple. But almost didn't notice the nosebleeds on the little wizard who was watching. Only halfway through the dance, Professor Flitwick said with a black line on his face, "Full marks, Mr. Levin Green. You dance well, don't dance next time." So he was kicked out of the examination room. The exam question in the Transfiguration class was very simple, but somewhat difficult: turning a mouse into a snuff box. The more exquisite the box, the higher the score. If there are still rat whiskers or tails on the box, points will be deducted. Freshmen only learn two things throughout the year: turn dead things into dead things, and turn living things into dead things. For Levin, turning a mouse into a snuff box was easy, but it is not easy to make a snuff box exquisite. This has nothing to do with Levin's transfiguration skills, it's simply that he has rarely seen a snuff box, so he had no choice but to use whatever he wanted, like a snuff box or something. It was just a small box, so Levin turned a gray mouse into a black wooden box with dragons and phoenixes carved on the edge. Some golden textures are added, and a square indent appears on the front of the small box, which can be used to inlay a nameplate or photo inside. When he handed the small box to Professor McGonagall, she was very satisfied. After all, this was a transfiguration class, not a design class. Just looking at this small box, she always felt strange. Zhang Qiu, who was passing by the classroom, almost laughed when he saw Levin's results. There are actually some who use the urn to deal with the professor. The urn box conjured by Levin is already very good, because most of the things conjured by little wizards are terrible. Ronald's snuff box retained its tail, Neville's snuff box retained its ears, and Seamus's snuff box was only medium rare. Transfiguration is indeed the most difficult course, and the number of people in the entire grade who can complete it perfectly can be counted on two hands. It was difficult for the students to get high scores in these two games, but it was almost devastating when taking the potions exam. During the exam, Snape would wander around the examination room, spreading cold air everywhere. Wherever he passed, the little wizard seemed to be cursed. His heart was heavy and he couldn't think of anything happy. He turned into a humanoid Dementor. Under his influence, many people performed abnormally, especially the Gryffindors, and almost everyone except Hermione fell over. The question of the exam is for getting potion, but many young wizards seem to have drunk the results of the exam in advance, and the various mistakes and omissions are frightening. For the potions test, Levin still took the potion test in hand. The whole process took about an hour, and it only took him 40 minutes to prepare it successfully, and he received another excellent result. The rest of the exam is even easier. The exam in the herbal medicine class was about dealing with fresh herbs. Levin mischievously cast some Druid spells on his own fresh herbs. As a result, Professor Sprout almost dropped his jaw when he checked his fresh juice. This kind of pure fresh juice is still. Did she train it? The flying class exam is the easiest. You don't need to be as good at flying as a Quidditch player in this class. You can get high scores by flying normally. In fact, Levin, a recognized Quidditch master, only needs to fly a symbolic flight to get full marks. The astronomy class exam involves drawing a star map through a telescope on the spot. The defense against the dark arts and history of magic exams are the most boring, simple and crude exams, they are all rote memorization of content from textbooks. Quirrell is good at making defense against the dark arts as boring as history of magic. History of magic was the last exam, and the little wizards cheered when the ghost of Cuthbert Binns told them to put down their quills and roll up the parchment on which they had answered the questions. After the exam, it is naturally time to relax. They have a full week to move freely before the exam results come. When the little wizards were relaxing around, Ha and his friends hurriedly found Hagrid. "Don't you think it's a little strange?" Harry said to Ronald and Hermione. "What Hagrid wants most is a dragon, but a stranger happens to have a dragon egg in his pocket. How many people carry it with them all day long? Walking around with a dragon egg? You know that's against wizarding law. Don't you think they were lucky enough to find Hagrid? Why didn't I think of this before?" But then they heard from Hagrid that he actually taught the stranger who gave him the dragon egg how to subdue the three-headed dog Luwe, so they hurried to find Dumbledore, but learned that the headmaster was not there. I learned from Professor McGonagall that the note in the beak of the owl that just flew over the sky was written by the Ministry of Magic to Dumbledore. He was keenly aware that this was definitely a ploy by Snape or Voldemort to lure the tiger away from the mountain. After his intimate face-to-face with Voldemort in the Forbidden Forest, Harry's scar hurt for a long time, and he believed it was a sign of Voldemort's return. In order to prevent Voldemort and Snape from getting the Philosopher's Stone, Harry decided to get the Philosopher's Stone in advance. "But, what should we do?" Ronald said. "If found out, we'll be kicked out." Hermione paled. Harry rolled his eyes and immediately paid attention. "When this happens, the only ones who can help us are our old classmates. Harry, go to the Western Tower and clear the Levin Buddha." So at the door of Ravenclaw's lounge, a confused Levin met three little lions. "So, you are planning to invite me to play that level-breaking game together so that you can get the Philosopher's Stone before the Dark Lord?" Levin was in disbelief when he heard their request. "My family members don't know. I told you to stay away from trouble, but who would have thought that trouble would come to my door?"